It's a story that's shaken Canada's political and business world. Stellantis, once praised for bringing jobs and billions in investment to Ontario, has now chosen Donald Trump's America over Canadian workers. Despite receiving huge incentives, government support, and a promise to build the future of EV manufacturing in Canada, the automaker is moving its production south. But this time, Canada isn't staying quiet. Prime Minister Mark Carney has made it clear, companies that turn their backs on Canadian workers for political gain will face real consequences. When a reporter challenged him, claiming Canada's deals were weak, Carney didn't back down. He called the claim flat out wrong, reminding everyone that under his leadership, Canada's word still means something.
Good morning, Prime Minister. Barbara with iPolitics. Just passing along a question from my editor, Marco Vigliotti. So Stellantis threatened to pull out of the Nexstar project in Windsor back in 2023 because the U.S. passed legislation allowing for even more generous subsidies. I understand you were not Prime Minister then, but it seems like these contracts are not terribly binding on the automakers.
No.
So is it a mistake to broker deals promising billions to companies to build here, knowing that experience suggests that they can just flee or demand more cash without much in the way of consequences?
Okay, well, first off, I know you're passing on a question. You can pass on this answer back to your editor. That's not a fair, an accurate description of the contract that the federal government signed with Stellantis and their partner LG. There are undertakings in that contract for the Nexstar battery that relate not just to the completion of that, but to the undertakings here in Brampton, not far from here. Let me say, so the premise of your question is categorically wrong with respect to the federal government, full stop. But let me also add that I spoke with the global head of Stellantis 2 days ago. I expressed disappointment on their decision to shift where the Jeep production was. I reminded the global CEO of those undertakings and that partnership that's been there. I received assurances from the global CEO of two things. One, that they're looking at different model being produced in Brampton, and as well that support would be provided for workers. We're working with them, we're working with Unifor, working with the province to ensure that those workers for Brampton have more than just the opportunity, and they do have the opportunity to move to the additional shift that is being put on at Stellantis' other facility. But because there's 1,500 jobs coming with that third shift there, but also that they have comparable support to what they receive.
That sharp tone wasn't just for the cameras. Carney's message was clear and deliberate. If Stellantis or any global company thinks it can take billions from Canadian taxpayers and then run off the moment Trump's subsidies appear, they're in for a harsh reality check. Carney said he personally spoke with the company's global CEO, not as a negotiator, but as a leader drawing a line. Because this isn't just about one automaker. It's about whether Canada will bow to Washington's economic pressure. And Carney isn't the only one fired up. Ontario's Premier Doug Ford took that same energy straight to the public, and he didn't hold back.
Leaders from every level of Canadian government are lashing out at Stellantis today. The automaker says it's reneging on plans to make Jeeps in Brampton, Ontario, and moving production to the U.S. instead. The blame is falling squarely on U.S. President Donald Trump and his tariffs.
We need to start hitting back and hitting back hard. That's the only thing this person understands. Sorry, I just get pumped up talking about this guy. He drives me absolutely crazy. He does. And we aren't going to roll over. I'm not going to let him roll over Ontario, I'll tell you that.
Ford's words electrified the crowd, a mix of anger, determination, and pride. He blasted Trump's protectionist policies as absolutely crazy and urged Canada to fight back with everything it has. For him, this isn't just about economics. It's about national dignity. Then came the workers' voices. The head of Canada's auto union declared that the line in the sand is Brampton. Because this isn't just one factory closing, it's a message. If the U.S. can pressure one plant to leave, what's stopping it from targeting the rest of Canada's industries? That's why Ford's passion and Carney's firmness struck such a chord. They're not just reacting to a business move, they're standing up for the idea that Canada will never be treated as second tier.
Well, the head of the union that represents auto workers is also not convinced Ottawa's approach to the United States is working.
It doesn't stop at auto. They will keep coming until they have weakened us as a nation and as an economy. And that is something we can't stand for. So the moment is now. The line in the sand is Brampton, and we have to push back as a country.
Then came Mélanie Joly, the federal voice of consequence. While Ford and Carney spoke with passion and policy, Joly brought the weight of accountability. Her message was direct. Canada didn't pour billions into these companies just for them to cave under White House pressure. She made it clear that if Stellantis breaks its promises, there will be real legal and financial consequences. Because no company, no matter how powerful, stands above Canada's word or its workers.
It's completely unacceptable. So we will fight for these jobs.
Canada's industry minister taking aim at Stellantis instead.
150,000 cars made by Stellantis are sold every year in Canada. And so Canadians know what to do when a company doesn't necessarily have the interests of Canadians at stake.
Joly sent this letter to the company's CEO, threatening legal action. Writing Stellantis has received billions of dollars in financial support over the decades and agreed to maintain its full Canadian footprint.
These companies making decisions to cower to the White House. Let's make sure that they understand that there are real consequences.
But as the Stellantis controversy deepens, a bigger question takes shape. How can Canada secure its economic future without being tied to Washington's politics? That's where a new opportunity enters the picture, China's unexpected EV proposal. While the U.S. threatens more tariffs, Beijing has offered a deal. If Canada drops its 100% EV tariff, China will lift its heavy taxes on Canadian canola. The move could unlock billions for farmers and attract new EV investment right here at home. Imagine this: Canada building its own EV plants, powered by Canadian parts, Canadian labor, and clean Canadian energy, working with partners who value cooperation, not coercion. This isn't about choosing between superpowers. It's about Canada finally choosing itself.
Canada can take a much higher level approach to this. The Chinese government is saying, look, we hit you very hard with tariffs on canola and other things when all of a sudden you excluded us from the Canadian market for our electric vehicles with no proper justification. So maybe reopen some part of that discussion. Now, the pushback from some people in the auto industry was, no, that'll hurt us even more. But at some point, you've got to fish or cut bait. You can't keep telling Canadian consumers, no, pay twice as much for your electric vehicle because we've got to keep that part of the auto industry here. Canada's got to have a logical approach to this. Mr. Carney will be going to China. Minister Anand has been both in India and in China. They're both working on creating new trade routes, new partnerships around the world. That has to be done. And I think that this is all part of that wider discussion. The Americans can't always have it their way, that they remove things from Canada and then expect us to stay in lockstep with them, for example, to exclude the electric vehicles from China just because that's what they wanted to do.
This moment, this confrontation, is about far more than a single factory or one automaker. It's about whether Canada continues to be treated as an economic afterthought or stands tall as a nation that defends its workers, its resources, and its future. Mark Carney, Doug Ford, and Mélanie Joly may not agree on everything, but today they spoke with one voice. Canada will not be played, bought, or bullied. As the world shifts toward new alliances and emerging technologies, Canada faces its true test, not in how well it follows America's lead, but in whether it has the courage to lead on its own. This is Canada today, standing firm, finding its voice and choosing its future. If you believe in a strong, independent Canada that puts its workers first, stay tuned, because this story is only just beginning.